This is it.
This is it? Okay. Guys, this is it. Are you up back there? Well, let's call to order the Planning Commission meeting for July 9th. Sally, would you like to call the roll call?
Yes, thank you. DeVoe.
Here.
Watson.
Here.
Hartsfield.
Here.
Mattingly. Penland.
Here.
Protes. Schrader.
Here.
And Stannard.
Here.
We do have a quorum this evening with 6 members present.
Would you like to join us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We're looking for an approval or any corrections to the minutes of the May 14th meeting.
Move for acceptance. Second.
We have a motion to approve and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Next item, item 4.
Thank you.
Request and/or public hearings. To consider ordinance 1243, amending section 18.09.090, J.3. of the Woodland Park Municipal Code to rescind the minimum 1 acre lot size and 100-foot setback to any single family district for development or use of a nursing home, convalescent home, rest home, and home for the aged, and add this to the use to the multifamily suburban and multifamily urban residential district.
Thank you. This is an amendment to the portion of our matrix, our use matrix, that refers to the assisted living, senior care facilities that are a wide range from nursing homes for memory care to senior complexes as well. So it recently came to our attention after having a couple of developers and retirement agencies approach us about perhaps building something in Woodland Park, that our matrix has in it a mandated 100-foot setback to any single-family residential district. And it requires a 1 minimum acre lot size. So if you were to build a small, very small facility on a quarter acre, half acre, it wouldn't even be allowed. So it limits the land available within the city. It also was not even allowed in our multifamily zones because it was primarily set up as a commercial property or use, and yet these function very similarly to an apartment complex just for seniors. So that was the motivation for the ordinance. And then our reasoning is that these will all be conditional use permits, no matter what zone it goes in, whether it's in a commercial or a multifamily zone. And you've all experienced the scrutiny that's provided when we review a conditional use permit. There's public hearings, both for Planning Commission, City Council. There's the 11 criteria that get reviewed and must be found to have been met. So we believe that because this is a conditional use permit and the setbacks could apply, if we needed to have additional buffers in particular cases, then that can be accomplished through the conditional use process. mentioned that they're similar to an apartment complex, which apartment complexes are very often adjacent to residentially zoned properties, single-family properties. Those have a minimum of a 25-foot setback for a rear property boundary, 8 on the sides. So this, we feel, wouldn't be any different, and perhaps would even create fewer impacts than an apartment complex. Seniors tend to be a little bit quieter, less traffic, so that might be better in the long run. There's a minimum, because of the minimum lot size, it does potentially reduce the number of sites available. I also researched neighboring communities, Colorado Springs, Fountain, Monument, Canyon City. None of these communities had this type of restriction to their senior care facilities. And then this is an increasing need in our demographic trends. The baby boomer generation is aging, so the need for these types of facilities, and currently we have a facility under construction over by the hospital, which is great. That will have 80 beds. Currently about 20% of the households are 65 and older in all of Teller County. 80 beds isn't necessarily going to help a lot. So this is consistent with our comprehensive plan for a wide range of housing options, and the philosophy of folks wanting to age in place in their community. If we have assisted living or nursing homes in the community that can handle our growing aging population, then that allows people to be able to continue to live in Woodland Park. So in the ordinance, it specifically shows the section of the matrix 1809090J3, and you can see that we'll just strike that section that speaks to the facility requirement for a 1 acre lot, and that it have a 100-foot setback from the residential district. The 2 red conditional use Cs are under the multifamily, suburban, and urban, and then still conditional within neighborhood commercial, community commercial, service commercial, central business district, and then in a planned unit development, those are permitted conditionally. So that's the proposal and the recommendation to move this forward for City Council to be able to review and approve into August. Happy to answer any questions.
Do you know when this criteria was established?
In 1996 is when the city's zoning code was overhauled. And I didn't go back to see prior to that, but it was a totally different categorization of zones. We had single-family R1, R2, R3, and commercial, a few commercials. So would have been in 96.
Yeah, a related question to that is, since it's different from other communities that you've researched, do you know why it was established that way?
I don't, Mr. Penland. I wasn't part of the planning department at the time that was reviewed and approved, so we have quite a few restrictions in our zoning regulations. So, you know, when we didn't have design standards in place in 96, so there may have been a feeling that they needed to be a little bit more restrictive on the dimensional standards because our design standards were not in place at that time.
Okay, thank you.
Sally, if this were a multifamily unit or something like that, adjacent to a single-family residential district, what would the setback be for a multifamily unit?
25 feet in the rear and 8 on the sides.
So it could be directly adjacent to a house next door, so to speak.
It could, and furthermore, a multifamily apartment complex is a permitted use in the multifamily zones. So it does not have hearings for the public. It's an administrative review.
Thank you.
Sally, could you elaborate on the inquiries that you've had a bit?
Yes. One was a national company that's looking for projects in this region, and they just weren't able to, I think, cut the deal for the land that they were looking at. So, and then another is a group out of Colorado Springs that's looking at a potential project.
Was this a factor in their decision-making?
More so in the second group than in the first group. The first group was looking at a larger piece of land that had a 50-foot easement on it, so they had to meet the 50-foot setback anyway.
Thank you.
Sally, what is a rest home?
Well, it's kind of an old-fashioned term for an assisted living facility.
A home for the aged?
Same thing. These are somewhat antiquated terms, but I didn't think that we needed to really drill down and update it too much. It's very clear that it's a home for the aged. That's a senior living
A
facility.
convalescent home could be a hospice home.
Could be.
Okay. One of the concerns that we don't spell out, and it's probably covered some other way we address this, but how many people can you pack into a small lot? What I'm saying is, if you put in a nursing home on a lot that is in one of these areas, and there's got to be a limit on how many people would be that the facility would serve, just like we do daycare. But I mean, where do we, what standard do we use if we're going to relax that 100 feet? I mean, what standard do we use for a rest home or whatever of how many people somebody can pack into that for revenue?
Well, that's an interesting question because the size of buildings are typically governed by the terrain and the type of development, the lay of the land, how it's accessed, how the parking lot is laid out, the amount of open space and landscaping that's required for development. And developers typically back into it. They also have their own formulas as to know how many rooms will market the best for their particular development. So we do not have limits on the number of apartments that go into a development. It's really driven by how the land will support the capacity that is best fit and marketed for that site.
In this case, this is conditional use,
This is conditional use.
so we basically get the chance to review this anyway. So
Absolutely.
if we're not comfortable with the density, we can always,
I just wish we had some
Yeah.
standards. We could say you can't have a bunch of 8 by 9 rooms and you put in 30 people in a 1,500 square foot facility, and there's got to be some standards somewhere for this stuff.
there must be.
Well,
There are state regulations which dictate the licensing for this kind of facility, and they do have minimum room sizes
They do.
associated with that, yes. I believe it's 100 square foot for a bedroom, 120 square foot for a double bedroom, but there's also other facilities required within the the building, as far as common areas.
Showers, et cetera.
baths, and ratios like that.
Okay.
And then, as far as development of the property, I think parking would be a considerable
That was going to be my
limiting
next
factor.
question, too, yeah.
I don't know what the ratio is, but I'm sure we have established ratios for that type of facility.
In our parking standards, it doesn't specifically call out a nursing home, but it also gives us the flexibility to pick something that's close to it and what would be required.
And
So don't-
with a CUP process, we'd certainly be able to review that. And that would
Absolutely.
somewhat dictate the density that could be developed on the property.
Yes,
That could be a requirement of the conditional use.
Yes.
And we could research that, what the
Yes.
state standard would be. I just want to make sure we can do that. We don't turn something into something that's a headache.
no. Ken's absolutely right. There is a licensing process for these types of facilities, and then the building code will govern the requirements for their bathrooms and handicap accessibility and all of those
Just
conditions.
hear horror stories in some areas about that. I don't want that to be here. Okay.
Is this specifically for a nursing facility as opposed to a retirement facility?
No, this includes all of those
So it could
types of
be a-
uses. It's broad. It's
Okay.
very broad.
So it could be a set of condos for retirement
Yes,
purposes.
But it's all conditional use anyway.
all conditional use. Okay, good
Anybody,
questions?
any other questions at this point? At this point, we'll open the public comment. At this point, we'll close the public comment. We'll bypass rebuttal from the applicant. Planning Commission, any final questions? Okay, this would be a good time to have a motion and a second.
Well, I'd like to move that we recommend approval to the board, council of ordinance number 1243 as proposed by staff.
Second.
We have a motion and a second.
Thank you. DeVoe,
Yes.
Watson,
Yes.
Hartsfield,
Yes.
Penland,
Yes.
Schrader,
Yes.
and Stannard.
Yes.
Thank you very much. So,
Move on to reports. I have none. Anybody, for the good of the order, have any comments or things they'd like to talk about since the last meeting? Anybody?
Are there any plans to replace Tom, and where are we in that process, or is that part of your report?
that was part of my
Okay, well,
report.
then I won't ask the question.
The planning director's report.
Answer Mr. Schrader's question here. Unfortunately, Tom Rollinger left our area, has moved down to Colorado Springs, so he has resigned from the Planning Commission, and the city clerk has advertised for that position and is taking applications through the month, through the end of this month, and we will, I think it's August 6th is the first meeting for city council that we will appoint a new member to take Mr. Rollinger's seat. I do have a card for everybody to sign here tonight as well.
Sold his house with 3 offers in how many hours? Days?
Few days.
It was like 2 days, gone, with backup offers. Bless his soul.
And on your desk is the Planning Department monthly report for June. We have, year-to-date, had 5 single-family homes, and today, we just sold another tap and issued another single-family home, so that brings us up to 6, halfway through the year. But you can see that we've been busy with sign permits and zoning development permits, as well as a lot of building permits and inspections. So it's picking up. In fact, Dave had 3 people in line today waiting to be helped, and It's starting to show the summer is here.
How's that compare to 14, single family?
We had 12 total single families last year, so
The whole
we're
year.
just halfway there.
We're on pace.
We're on pace. Right. The Trail Ridge Apartments, we did issue the certificate of occupancy for building number 5. So they have 2 more buildings to finish, and it's fully leased up.
They have the 2 by the road that are,
Correct.
plus they have the foundation they haven't started yet.
Right. Those are one of the 2.
That's one of the 2?
Yes.
So that whole unit there is one building? That's right there on Highway 24?
No, it's 2
Two
buildings,
buildings.
24 units each,
That's finished.
that are yet to be finished.
But what about the one there that's not even come out of the ground yet? That all
That's
the-
one of the 2
That's
that
one
are
of the
yet
2.
to be
Okay, all
finished.
right.
5 are finished, 2 are not,
All leased?
all leased.
Yeah. That's pretty good. It really is. That's outstanding that that's taking place.
I remember about a year ago or so, there was an approval to turn the trailer park by Walmart into an apartment complex.
No,
No?
no.
Lots of rumors.
Yeah, there are other
Always-
similar
always rumors about
floating.
No, we've not had any proposals for the Woodland Village Mobile Home Park for any changes there.
The trailer court there
Yeah.
is on foreclosure. It was in this week's paper. That will be sold on the courthouse steps. I think it's August the 26th.
Oh, so that's what was going on.
That will
Okay.
be up for, there's a foreclosure on it, and it's posted in the legal notices in this week's Courier.
Good job reading the legal notices. I'm impressed.
No, but that's there. So that'll mean there's going to be a change or something going on there.
And so we have a workshop, as there isn't any other discussion or comments.
Motion to adjourn?
So moved. Didn't
All
take
those
you
in
long to
favor?
say that.
No deliberation there.
Okay. Yes. First reading is
Yeah, so that whole land there's going to be
going
up
to be
for
August 1st,
something.
or
There was
August
some
6th.
discussion about that a year
And
ago.
then
or so.
14